Hey everyone. I am just taking a moment and getting this set up. Let me just make sure it's set up and going. And it looks like it is. Awesome. So I will close that down. Hey there. How are you? Elizabeth Hughes here. Glad you're able to watch. So I wanted to talk about your value versus the victim. And this is prompted by a phone call that I just recently had with a person who wanted a transformation in her life. She had been ready for it for at least a year, probably longer. She had a great deal of discomfort with staying where she was. And yet, she didn't decide that now was the time to work on it because she was you needed to look at her finances. Now, let me be really clear here. Yes, you do have to look at your finances. You do have to pay attention to your finances. You do have to pay attention to the what your bottom line is. But no one should ever make that the whole reason not to get something that you want, especially when it's transformation, especially when it's something that you want. Like a year from now, I want to feel totally different. I want to feel totally better. I want to have a totally different professional experience. That is a really, really good way if you're feeling stuck to stay stuck, right? Um, and this is particularly something that I will see people say, doctors in particular say, when they cannot really understand what it is where they're going to go, because there's so many different ideas in their mind, and really doctors have spent so long thinking in a very rigid, linear, inside the box with blinders on pattern for so incredibly long that they can't kind of see what it is on the other side of the blinders, although they can sense it. They can sense there's something I want. And so there's this, but is it worth putting my money toward it? Is it worth actually putting my hard cold cash towards this thing I can only sense as a vague desire? Um, is it worth it? And which boils down to, am I worth it? All right. So I'm going to talk to doctors really specifically right now because so many employed physicians, and even, well, actually, pretty much all physicians, unless you're running direct primary care, pretty much all physicians are having exactly this same problem with insurance companies or employers. That same value is happening. Doctors are, in general, finding that their compensation is dropping. As the person I was on the call with earlier said, the goal line for what you have to do to get your promised compensation is constantly moving. For those of you who aren't doctors, just imagine for a moment having a job where every day your job requirements changed a little bit. Somebody else determined them, and they said, "Well, we're not going to pay you because you're like." We're not going to pay you for yesterday because we moved the goal line, right? It's sort of, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous the way physician compensation is run at the moment. But that is, again, part of this same victim idea. Like, I have to let someone else make my decisions about money because that's the only way to do it, right? That's the way it's done. I can't generate money outside of this system. I can't even find the will to negotiate because life just is happening to me and my compensation is happening to me. So when you have this idea that money is something that you don't have full control over because in your professional life, some corporate entity or multiple corporate entities have control over your compensation. You don't have you're not being compensated commensurate with your value. Like the compensation is something that someone else makes up and has nothing to do with your actual value. And in most cases, or in many, many cases, doctors are actually working more and harder and not getting a raise, or actually in some cases over the COVID period have been taking pay cuts despite working harder, right? So you have this sense that your compensation is somewhere out there that you don't have control over. And then when it comes to your own transformation, you think, well, I don't think I have control over my money enough to actually get what I want. And what I get and what I want is sort of wishy-washy and not really tangible. And so maybe it's just not that important. And I'm going to let my desire for something different pass by. So I'm going to ask you, is this something that you've experienced? As any of this, to my physician friends out there and dentists, is any of this something that you've experienced? That you have a sort of victim relationship toward money? I can only get what they give me, and I have to be satisfied with that. And then find that you're making yourself a victim when it's a choice that you want to make for yourself. Well, I don't really know if I have enough money and I don't really know if it's important, so I'm just not going to make the change. It's a funny, funny little knot that you have to undo. Really, it's a funny little knot that you have to undo. And what happens when you start to put money toward what you want? I mean, people like to say, words like invest, but when you actually put dollars and cents toward I'm important, my dream is important, my satisfaction is important, my happiness is important. When you start putting money towards that in a real and way, and you start to take action based on the fact that, hey, I'm important, my dreams are important, my satisfaction is important, my life is important. When you start actually acting that way, both in where you put your money and your energy and your time and your focus and your hopes and your dreams, when you put all of that investment into you, what happens in your professional life is that you actually see that mirrored in when you encounter one of these moving goalposts and you have, an administrator who, a bean counter, someone who pushes paper says, well, we're going to cut your compensation. You're suddenly saying, no, but you say it in a different way. You say it in a way instead of saying like, well, no, I don't really want to accept that. It's like, no, I don't want to accept that. It's a totally different way. And then you see a different response from what's happening to the other people. And doctors are so linear and so logical and so intelligent and so focused on the actual words being said that we all miss that sort of energetics underneath what goes on. And that's really what goes on in a negotiation, not what you say, but what you are at your core believing about you, your worth, your value, what you're willing to put up with. Where are your standards? Where are your boundaries? Right? You have to have those in line for you by, as I said, investing your time, money, energy, focus, happiness, expectations in you first. And then you will be amazed at how the BS administrative stuff changes around you. It sounds not like it's logical, but there's a magnetism. And we've all met people who have some sort of magnetic personalities in our lives that you just like, ooh, I want some of what that is. I want some of what that person is. I wish I would carried myself the way that person is. You become that magnetic person, and then everybody listens to you in a different way. You can say exactly the same words. That isn't acceptable. I don't want it. And you can say it from a state of, I don't want it, but I'm going to have to put up with it forces. I don't want it, and it's not acceptable, and I'm not going to. Right. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Your value versus the victim. So if you are thinking of making a change, look at your value and what does the decision about how you're going to change. Wait, if you're right on the verge of a decision about, what is my, I want to change, which is going to take some money and time and energy and focus. Where are you putting the value? Are you putting the value where it actually needs to be, which is within you? Or are you letting something else besides you control your destiny? That's what I've got for today. Thank you for watching.